So let me be frank. I haven't watched too much of Dmitry Bivol. I'm definitely more MMA than I am boxing. Leading up to this fight, I wanted to get to know Dmitry Bivol. So to do that, I watched his fight with Canelo. His style is great. He's very active with the jab, throws good combinations. But one thing I noticed, and I'm not saying this is a good or a bad thing. People do this. People fight with their hands down. People fight with their hands up. People have different ways of fighting, and they work in different ways. But Bivol, it seems, likes the high guard. He pretty much always resorts to that. And he doesn't really shoulder roll or any fancy defenses. It's very basic high guard defense, which is good. I like that. But when Bivol gets to using his jab, which is his best weapon by far from what I've seen, Bivol constantly jabs, and after he jabs, well, here he's double jabbing, but when he brings it back, it's constantly coming back to his hip. And, like, again, not saying this is a good or a bad thing. This is just something that I noticed a lot. You can see every time he throws his jab and he's done throwing his jab for a second, he'll bring it back. If he's double jabbing, then he'll leave it there to pump it out twice. But all the time, he brings his jab hand back to his hip. Now, again, isn't a good or bad thing, but what it does leave an opening for is counter right hands. So I'll just continue showing examples. Jabs, even when the jab gets like parried upwards and you could expect him to bring it back to like a defensive swat, he puts it right back down at his hip. And he does this virtually every jab. There, he's looking to double pump it, so he goes back, but he steps back out of range, and his range management is very good. This is another thing we have to keep in mind. You can have your hands down when you're out of range, but if you're in punching range and your hands are down and you're not shoulder rolling or you're not moving your head side to side too much, then that's where it starts to become dangerous. But Canelo backs him up a little bit. And yeah, very high guard reliant is Bivol, which is completely all right. But again, jab, it's going to come back down to his hip. Here he throws a nice little combination. This is like where he's really money, is when he gets into these combination punches. But again, he jabs here, down to his hip. I know Canelo's in the way. Jabs here, down to his hip. Jab, down to the hip. So this is just something that I've noticed, not saying that it's good or bad. Some people like to keep the jab, keep their hands up the whole time when they're jabbing. Like Canelo would be someone who would jab and bring it back. But when you jab and take it down, it makes the jab tricky. Like, it's tough to see. It's harder to see a jab coming from down there, but it does leave you open defensively. And if you're not shoulder rolling like a Floyd Mayweather or an Ilia Topuria for an MMA example, then it's going to be hard to deal with that counter right hand. And someone who has a phenomenal counter right hand, again, this is just examples, he's constantly doing it. This is the first round too. And someone who has a phenomenal counter right hand and likes to throw the slip inside right hand and has absolute concrete in his fist is Mr. Artur Beterbiev out of Montreal, apparently. He trains out of Montreal, but obviously of Russian descent. But here in his last fight with Callum Smith, you know the Smith bros love to put autism on the back of their shorts. Like, it's cool that they're like promoting it. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. Jab, and then Callum Smith's hands come down, and the jab lands too. But Beterbiev is looking to slip counter, but he's just a little late, and the jab lands, but it doesn't matter because Beterbiev's coming over the top with that right hand, because Callum Smith's jab takes the path of landing, and then after it's done landing, it comes down to his hip, just as Dmitry Bivol was doing. So Beterbiev can come over the top and crack. And it doesn't take a big swing for Beterbiev to crack you and hurt you. And once he has you hurt, then it's really rough. Like, look at that. Oh, that's just like a chopping right hand to the temple and makes Callum Smith's leg go whoop, all wonky. and obviously 21 fights, 21 KOs, I think it is, or 20 and 20. He has amazing finishing instincts, and if he gets you hurt, he'll probably get you out of there. Personally, I want Beterbiev to win this fight just because of that perfect KO to win record. That's just, if you retire with that, that's like amazing. So I want him to keep that streak alive. And I think since Bivol is so jab heavy, and after almost every single jab, it drops down to his hip, I think this will be a counter that Beterbiev is looking for and could potentially land. If he lands it, like, if this happens in the fight, Beterbiev lands the perfect right hand, then I'm the GOAT, and you all have to bow down to me as the greatest fight analyst of all time. Thank you for watching. If you made it to the end of the video, peace. Is that what I usually do?